The United States has the biggest music market in the world. That doesn't mean other countries don't matter, but it still generates more revenue than anyone else. Hell, succeeding here can even lead to greater success worldwide due to the US's wider reach. Because of this, many musicians from across the globe have made attempts to break into the US. The K-pop industry is no different. While I can't pinpoint the exact moment it started, I can guarantee you, it's been happening since first gen. For example, one of the earliest girl groups, Baby Box, and their 2004 album, Ride West. They worked with a Western label for it, emulated the look of popular hip-hop trends in their MV, and had collaborations with Jennifer Lopez and Tupac. Although the latter kinda led to issues. Yeah, if you've heard about their US debut, this is probably the part you know about. Later K-pop acts such as Seven, BoA, and Girls' Generation released English-language songs or even albums, and made more active efforts to promote here. If you're thinking, hey, I know these acts, but I've never heard of these debuts. Exactly. These did not lead to mainstream popularity. At best, their albums would chart for a singular week, and they'd make an okay profit at concerts. There are tons of reasons why. The fluctuating trend of girl groups and boy bands in the US, too much competition, xenophobia and racism, of course. The Wonder Girls were among the most successful, as they were the first Korean act to chart a single on the Hot 100, and their tour with the Jonas Brothers found decent success. Even then, their CEO admitted they didn't do as great as he hoped. Things were shaken up a bit with industry veteran Psy's song, Gangnam Style, having an explosion of international popularity. However, explosions dissipate. Like I said in my Momoland video, rapid rises to the top are near impossible to maintain. Even Psy himself admitted that people didn't know him by his name. They knew him as Gangnam Style dude with funny horse dance. It was hard enough for Psy to keep the momentum going for himself, so he sure as hell wasn't going to be able to bring his whole ass country with him. Especially considering that Psy didn't resemble most of K-pop. Any hardcore stans he did gain weren't going to go, oh fuck yeah, the cute girls in furry cosplay are exactly what I'm looking for! And so, it seemed like K-pop would remain a niche in the West for a long, long time. Well, until these dorks showed up. BTS's Western achievements started notable, but small. Like charting for more than a singular week, or winning a BBMA. Then it kept going, reaching number 1 on the charts, selling out the biggest US stadiums. Speaking at the White House? What? They are big for a Korean group. They're big, period. BTS opened the doors for Korean acts to have more opportunities in the West. Find K-pop albums at your local stores, see an influx of K-groups on television. Thank these guys. K-pop companies have since renewed their efforts to gain traction in the US. More English songs, US tours, songs available on international streaming platforms, the usual. But then, you have some take it a step further. You have companies forming groups with the explicit intention of having them become famous in America. Enter SM Entertainment and SuperM. Hey, the name's Elevate. Welcome back to Anatomy of an Idol. I go over the hows and whys of the highs and lows from an act in the K-pop industry. Today, we're looking at SuperM. From the moment this group was announced, people had problems with their mere existence. Okay, you could say that about every group, but this one especially. Despite their achievements, they're better remembered for inflammatory marketing or even concerns of chart manipulation. Before we analyze why, I want to make it clear I will be discussing questionable decisions made by SuperM's labels. This does not mean I'm attacking the members. Nothing indicates they were involved in these decisions, so getting mad at them would make me an asshole. Still chills watching this video? Alright, hop in. It's a bumpy ride. I don't think SM Entertainment needs any introduction. But I'm gonna give them one anyway. Founded in 1989 by Lee Suman, SM Entertainment is one of the biggest companies in K-pop. They're often credited with popularizing the idol formula and trainee system with their group HOT, and they've debuted a metric fuck ton of influential acts since. A lot of what people view today as K-pop can be traced back to SM. For better and for worse. SM has promoted several other artists in the US, such as the previously mentioned BoA and Girls' Generation. However, in the 2010s, they seemed to relax their efforts towards Western expansion. They'd still have the occasional US tour date, but their focus was mainly on Asia. Then, those 7 dweebs started to make the rounds. 2017 saw them being the first Korean boy band to be nominated for and win a Billboard Music Award, chart on the Hot 100, and perform at the AMAs. 2018 just got crazier. Their album Love Yourself Tear reached number 1 on the album charts, and its title track Fake Love made it to the Hot 100's top 10. This is all with Korean releases, by the way, meaning radios would rarely play their shit and give them chart points. Honest to God, I want to see the reactions big K-pop companies had to this. Like, they tried for years to reach this level, and now they're being beat out by a group from a small label founded by that guy who used to write for JYP. BTS's success showed the US that there was demand for foreign acts like them, and some, like many companies, started to make use of this. For example, they sent their group NCT 127 to perform on Jimmy Kimmel Live a little under a year after BTS did. Many took notice of this, but these decisions weren't crazy controversial. With this newfound demand, hell yeah, companies were going to utilize it! More money, bitch! It's not inherently a bad thing, as long as BTS are properly acknowledged for influencing others to go down this path. SM doesn't tend to do that, but let's not get sidetracked. Soon, SM began to set their sights higher. They went to work on something big, something ambitious, something that no one asked for. Capitol Records is an American music label that's been operating since the 1940s. From Frank Sinatra and Nat King Cole to Halsey and Sam Smith, their artist lineup is pretty fucking stacked. On August 7th, 2019, Capitol Records made an announcement at their private event, Capitol Congress. Capitol, their subsidiary Caroline, and SM Entertainment would be forming a partnership for a new supergroup named SuperM. Their goal? To make waves in America. The lineup consisted of some of SM's most popular male idols. First was Lee Taemin. He made his idol debut in 2008 in the boy band SHINee. He's made noise as a soloist since 2014, and I think he's pretty rad. Next were 2 members of 2012 boy group EXO, Byun Baekhyun and Kim Jong-in aka Kai. For a few years, EXO was considered the top boy group in K-pop. Finally, we had 4 members from NCT. Mark Lee and Lee Taeyong were active in the group's Korean subunits. The other 2 were more prominent in NCT's Chinese subunit WayV, Wong Yoke aka Lucas, and Ten Chittapon Lee Chayaponko. On the surface, this seems like an idea that everyone would be on board with. Some of the most popular SM idols forming one massive group sounds metal as fuck! What could be the problem? Well, a lot of things, actually. The main complaints can be divided into 2 categories. One was in regards to the members. Not necessarily how good the lineup was, although you bet your asshole stands complain about that, but more so how this could harm them. This wasn't just a fun little side gig where they drop an album then dip. This was a new, promoted group. It was later revealed they were going to travel to the US, appear on American TV shows, and even hold a goddamn tour. Many stands of these idols expressed concern. Some people worried that Mark would be overworked. He was in 3 out of the 4 NCT subunits until he left NCT Dream, then didn't. The man had a lot on his plate, and a 4th debut felt excessive to some. Others felt this would take time away from other activities. For example, Kai had yet to make a solo debut. Establishing himself as a soloist before his mandatory enlistment could be essential in keeping his career afloat. Check out hashtags like #SupergroupDisbandParty or #SuperM and you'll see the stands of these idols talking about how they do not want this. Obviously, there were fans who were excited, but a considerable amount were annoyed that the main gigs of the members would have to be put on hold for this. Valid concern or entitlement? Y'all decide. However, that wasn't the only complaint. The second problem people had was with the group's goal. It was made very clear that the main purpose of SuperM was to achieve US popularity. Many felt it was specifically, "We saw what BTS did, and now we want to surpass that." Of course, mainly BTS stans pointed this out, but even some from other fandoms shared this viewpoint. If that was SM's intention, it was kinda doomed to fail. BTS's Western achievements resulted from already existing demand. BTS were a group with years of experience, and their US fanbase steadily built up over time. They only started to dip their toes into Western waters after all of this. SuperM were diving in headfirst when they didn't even know how to swim! Yes, the members were already debuted and established names, but there was no guarantee fans would be into SuperM's unique sound and image. When you immediately label your own group the Avengers of K-pop! Look, aspiring to find success in the West due to BTS's impact is fine, but you can't just rush into it before the world can realize what makes you special. You sure as hell can't place such a grand title onto them that fucking fast. How can you expect mind-blowing success when you focus so little of your attention on the countries where most fans live? The BTS comparisons just got more pronounced leading up to the debut. Article after article, person after person speculated on whether SuperM was gonna be the next BTS. Some went further than that.
Lee Soo-man is not here to play around with boy bands or faffbot with Halsey and an ongoing series of terrible suit fits. Lee Soo-man introduced SuperM right off the bat as the Avengers of K-pop. It's a masculine image. Powerful. The focus is on everything that make it throw in the garbage in an attempt to chase the former directioners. Talent. Art. Beauty. The trailers for SuperM don't show talking head footage of what their fans mean to them or relatable docu moments. These men are idols. They have glamour. It's exactly what the American culture industry has forgotten how to provide.
Jesus fuck, I think I burned my mouth with all that toxic masculinity. It really does make me feel bad for both groups. It's disrespectful to BTS as it implies that they're easily replaceable. They had just started making it big in America, yet people were already trying to find a better version. It's disrespectful to SuperM as it doesn't allow them to build their own identity. They were set up to be compared to BTS from the very beginning, and it's not a solid foundation for a career. Do the members want this? I don't think so. If this is all pre-debut! Oh boy! Alright, we can't harp on Stan Twitter outrage forever. Moving on. Prior to their debut EP's release, SuperM dropped the instrumental for their B-side, I Can't Stand the Rain, on August 28th. Honestly, not a bad way to build anticipation. Give them a taste of what's to come without revealing too much. Nice. On October 4th, SuperM made their official debut with the EP, the SuperM. It led with the title track Jopping, which was a combination of jumping and popping. Alright? Sure. The lyrics were mainly in English, with some Korean as well. The side tracks seemed to keep the lyrics mostly in Korean, though. In the first 24 hours, Jopping's MV reached a respectable 8.8 million views. The album, meanwhile, peaked at number 5 on US iTunes. After the EP dropped, SuperM's social medias wasted little time getting to the promo. They were pretty transparent about their desire to reach number 1 on the Billboard 200. Fans were encouraged to post pictures of their newly bought albums, and SuperM's official account would retweet these posts or share them on their Insta stories. In the final hours of Billboard's tracking week, the account would discuss a chart battle. We're almost at the top spot, guys! We can't do it without you, so keep streaming and buying. For a K-pop act, this is surprisingly direct. This promo wasn't limited to posts. About a month before their debut, SuperM set up a phone number US fans could sign up for and get texts from. Sometimes these would simply be cute little texts asking fans about their day or whatever. However, those weren't what most messages looked like. The main purpose of the number was to update fans on stuff like when merch was dropping or where the group would be performing. When the mini-album dropped, fans began to get numerous messages requesting them to buy and stream so SuperM could top the Billboard charts. This, combined with the social media posts, made some see the group as desperate. The members aren't at fault here, as these are clearly automated text messages. I'm sorry to say, you're not really texting Mark. But it reflected poorly on the group nevertheless. Even some stans were annoyed by this and called it spam. User @Centuritis compared it to an absent parent who only texts you on special occasions or when they want something in return. Many agreed their social media team could have toned it down a bit. This campaign for number 1 even reached SuperM's competition for the title, Summer Walker. Although not a massive name, Summer Walker's new album Over It pulled a record-breaking 154.7 million streams in its first week. She was gonna be tough to beat. However, SuperM is like many a K-pop boy group where their strength is album sales. No one buys albums anymore, so Billboard weighs physical sales more than streams cause it's impressive as hell if you can sell records nowadays. Summer's spot was not guaranteed, and her team knew that. She posted on her social media that she was aware that people were trying to take the number 1 spot, and vowed to not let that happen. In all fairness to both sides, she was vying for that spot long before SuperM's team began their more aggressive tactics. Still, both sides seem to be aware of their competition. Their active efforts to secure this one chart position caught the eyes of many. This made the anticipation for this week's chart results much higher than usual, which would work to SuperM's benefit, as well as detriment. October 13th, the day Billboard would be announcing the top entries on the Billboard 200. The fight for number 1 was quite public, so people's eyes were peeled. Typically, the chart results were announced sometime in the early afternoon. The fact that 8 fucking PM rolled around with no news did not help to ease any tensions. Finally, Billboard announced the results. The number 1 album was SuperM's self-titled EP. This made them only the 2nd Korean artist to ever top the US album charts. And to it remained until Stray Kids reached number 1 this year. Oh, I am not touching that one with a 20-foot pole. One controversy at a time for me, please. To say the reactions were mixed would be an understatement. Obviously, the fans were hyped. This was a major achievement for their boys that the stands worked tirelessly to achieve. Feeling pride in them and each other is expected. And if there were any Asian stands who found joy in representation in this moment, I don't want to take away from that. Not everyone was as happy. Many voiced concerns over the legitimacy of the number 1. The celebration from stands was super valid, but to dismiss all the critiques as other fandoms being bitter ignores rational worries. A major one was the sales to stream ratio. Billboard reported that the album debuted with 168,000 units, 164 from album sales, 1,000 from individual track sales, and 3,000 from streams. That final number translates to about 4.9 million US streams. This isn't 4.9 million streams for one song. That's for the entire album! A number 1 album being streamed under 5 million times after a whole week in the streaming era for music is batshit insanity! On the global Spotify chart, Jopping was the only song that appeared with a peak of 139. That is global. Jopping didn't even touch the US Spotify chart. Speaking of Jopping, the next day unveiled the Hot 100, and no SuperM songs charted there. I mean, it didn't surprise people considering the Spotify numbers, but it was weird. Blackpink's debut album that peaked at number 2 charted all 3 of their singles on the Hot 100. 2 of them even reached the top 40. Then there was the number of Hot 100 entries from the album under SuperM's, and yeah. Oh, on that note, SuperM's album charted for 10 weeks. Summer Walker, 141. Yikes! So how could an album have so many people willing to buy it, yet so few willing to listen to it? Let's look at the main points. Number 1, bundles. Bundling is a very, very controversial practice in the music industry. It's usually when artists sell merchandise or tour tickets along with an extra album to go along with it. This isn't the only way it's done. Sometimes it's more like, hey, buy a concert ticket and you'll get a discount if you decide to buy the album. But it is the most maligned variation. One infamous example was when a digital copy of Travis Scott's album Astroworld was included with all the merch sold through his website, leading to a number 1 on the album charts. The practice was controversial, as it made it unclear if fans genuinely wanted the album, or the merch, with the album just being snuck in there. SuperM, on their official website, had over 60 different merch bundle options. 60! Oh, and a lot of these bundles allowed fans to use the app Affirm to buy now and pay later. There was also a digital copy of the album made available for all those who bought a ticket for their tour. Out of the 164K album units, 113K were from physical sales, and 51K were digital downloads. So yes, many were legit going out to buy the album. But those digital album bundles definitely did their job. This is also where the previous BTS comparisons came to bite them in the ass. At this point, BTS had achieved 3 #1 albums without the use of bundles. Now, you may remark, "Come on, Ella, even Summer Walker used bundles. This was a very common legal practice in the industry." And you'd be right. It was. Not even a year after SuperM's #1, Billboard officially stopped counting merch and ticket bundles towards their charts. Not to say no one found ways around it, but it demonstrates how people saw this practice as shady. SuperM's #1 remains infamous for its bundle usage. Although not everyone stopped there. Number 2, flat out cheating. I am going to label this entire section as alleged. Please keep in mind that what I am bringing up cannot be 100% proven. This is mainly speculation, and I'm bringing it up because it was a very prominent discussion at the time. We cool? Cool. So, pretty self-explanatory. The US album charts only count sales made by US citizens. Easy concept to grasp. However, people started to theorize that wasn't what happened here. The theory goes that fans from across the world would buy SuperM's album. The ordered albums would be shipped from an American retailer to the overseas fans, and the order would be reported as a sale from an American buyer. That's a pretty hefty claim! How did anyone come to that conclusion? Well, people began to pull out some suspicious screenshots. For example, SM Global Shop's Instagram account stated in its bio that all orders officially count for the Billboard chart. After BuzzFeed mentioned this in an article, the bio was changed to all US album sales count towards Billboard charts. Retailers such as Yes24 also mentioned that Korean sales of the album count towards Billboard. The most notable evidence came from the Korea Herald. They claimed to have recovered emails between a Korean retail employer and a US record dealer that suggests SuperM's album was sold with the intention of having Korean sales count towards the Billboard charts. Now, the Korea Herald reporting false information would not be the most shocking thing in the world. Maybe the companies did intend to have international sales count, but Billboard filtered them out. Maybe the whole anonymous source is a load of bullshit. Hard to know. As for the other screenshots, you could chalk them up to poor wording or misleading marketing. It's worth investigating, but keep in mind they aren't enough to prove anything. But nothing fully disproves the theory either. Whether this conspiracy holds any water or not, the speculation made a lot of people lose faith in the validity of the chart results. The media reaction was also mixed. Some hyped up the fact that SuperM were the first Asian act to have their debut album reach #1, maybe bringing up how they beat BTS. Others focused on the crazy bundling and aggressive marketing that got them there. This was some people's first exposure to the group, and that was unlikely to convert them to fans. It's a shame that what could have been a massive moment couldn't be properly celebrated. With the #1 album under their belts, SuperM began their in-person promotions in America. Their North American tour started on November 11th. They booked appearances on numerous US TV shows such as The Ellen Show, Jimmy Kimmel Live, and the reboot of All That? How oddly specific. Throughout all of this, the clickbait articles continued with ferocity. It's actually kind of funny how many of these headlines were all SuperM versus BTS? SuperM would go on to state in interviews that they didn't want to step on other groups to find fame. Not like this made journalists shut up! Seriously, this is fucking hilarious! How can you be so tense? Now is maybe a good time to discuss a phrase often thrown around with SuperM. Media play. Media play doesn't have a set definition, and it's a very misunderstood term. The general gist is that it's a technique companies use to bring attention to their artists. This includes shady stuff like exaggerating achievements, publicizing controversies, or writing off the name recognition of other artists. So, SuperM does media play, right? Well, hard to say. SM and Capital haven't been the ones directly mentioning BTS. That came from outside articles. We don't know how involved the companies were. However, it's not unheard of for companies to have connections that influence what a journalist writes. It's not something to rule out. But we shouldn't act like we know what's happening behind closed doors. For all we know, these writers just really want the clicks. SuperM later added non-North American stops to their tour. Unfortunately, before they could get to Japan, this little bastard showed up. And so, their international activities were cut short. The group's whole purpose was to make it internationally, so a pandemic that greatly limited how much they could travel was a major concern. However, 2020 wouldn't be empty for forever. An online concert for the group was held on the 26th of April, and some of the songs performed were new tracks from a yet-to-be-released comeback. Well, fans would get that official release soon enough. SuperM's first full album, Super One, was announced in August, and 3 pre-release singles would drop leading up to the album on September 25th. 100 dropped August 14th, Tiger Inside dropped September 1st, and One Monster and Infinity dropped August 23rd. A few notable things were achieved with these singles. For example, Tiger Inside was the first, and so far only SuperM song to chart on the Korean Gaon charts. By the way, not long after I finally finished the script for this video, the Gaon charts changed their name to the Circle charts. God damn you, Gaon, making my life 1% more difficult! However, they mostly did worse than Jopping. Jopping scratched the charts of Canada and New Zealand, but Super One's singles did not. Jopping also reached number 1 on the US World Digital Song Sales charts. Super One's singles peaked at number 7. Yeah, all 3 of them peaked at number 7. Tripped me out when I first saw that. They only charted for 1 week, except for Tiger Inside, which made it 2 weeks, compared to Jopping's 6 weeks. The promo for Super One used a lot of the same tactics as their debut. Encouraging fans to get the album to number 1, sharing fan posts of their newly bought albums, spam texts, various performances, and a lot of bundles. Many of these bundles were based around a collaboration that SuperM had with Marvel to create a series of merch. I couldn't find the exact number, but I personally counted at least 30 different merch bundles for this album. Now, y'all have seen this story before and can guess how it ends. That's right! Second place! Wait, what? Okay, peaking at number 2 by itself isn't bad. Planet Her never reached number 1, and trying to suggest it flopped would be stupid. However, the chart position wasn't the only concern. SuperM's debut reached 168,000 units. Super One only reached 104,000 units. That is a major decrease in both streams and sales. It also only charted for 4 weeks, not even a full month, compared to the 10 weeks of their debut. You'd think a full album would chart for longer and with higher units, but that's oddly enough not the case here. Despite using similar promotion tactics, they couldn't reach the same success of 2019. They haven't lost all the fans, of course, but quite a bit of the hype was exclusive to their debut, and not enough people felt like tuning in for the next release. Out of the many possible reasons, a major one could be how people mainly associated SuperM with other acts, both BTS and their original groups. This brought debut clout, but it's not enough for consumers to come back. Now, it may seem too soon to make that bold of a statement after only their first comeback. That may be true, but that's all we have right now. 2020 was the last time they released an album. In 2021, the only music they released was the song We Do, which was a collab with a damn insurance company. Oh, speaking of, We Do actually ran into some Twitter controversy. Comparisons were made between this song and Dynamite by BTS. There was the obvious inspiration both took from disco, but people also pointed out similarities in the MVs. Calling this plagiarism would be a stretch so wide Mrs. Incredible couldn't make it. although drawing inspiration from BTS isn't out of the question, which is fine. Normally, most people wouldn't give a shit about these similarities. It's a song for a fucking insurance company. However, the constant comparisons to BTS made a situation like this bound to happen. All this talk of SuperM quote-unquote beating BTS, and SM almost never acknowledging the impact BTS had on K-pop, only to, possibly, jump on a trend they started? The jokes write themselves! You've probably noticed by now that releases have been spaced pretty far apart. This was inevitable as the group members have other, more pressing obligations. However, this leads to two main problems. First, consistent success is usually needed if you want to be remembered. Having that one #1 was awesome, but that's not enough to stick in people's minds regarding those in K-pop who broke into the American market. Again, look at all the other K-pop acts I mentioned earlier, Psy included. Even if their American efforts weren't everlasting, they had their South Korean achievements to fall back on. The whole point of SuperM was US success. They don't have any of those Korean achievements to fall back on. Second, this makes it harder for the group to establish their own identity. People being frequently exposed to their sound, group dynamics, and talents can help them gain a genuine appreciation for SuperM. Because those clickbait articles were, not doing that. I don't think SM and Capital can really fix this, because it's inevitable the releases would be infrequent. However, all the press and promo, the Avengers of K-pop, they're being set up as all-powerful. That's not a great move since incoming hiatuses would hold back that power. As of this recording, SuperM have been inactive since 2021. It's likely to be that way for a good bit. All able-bodied men in South Korea who haven't been granted exemption must enlist in the military for around a year and a half. Because of this, Taemin and Baekhyun have enlisted, with Kai soon to follow. Continuing with the current lineup would basically just make the group a really tiny NCT subunit. So this hiatus will likely last until the military shit ends. Or... Alright, let's address the elephant in the room real quick. In August of 2021, several posts were made by people claiming to be Lucas's ex-girlfriends. These people claim that Lucas exhibited inappropriate behavior during his relationships with them. This is usually the part where companies, SM included, deny the accusations and start going on about legal action. But no, Lucas actually admitted to the claims and apologized. Although he didn't specify what he was admitting to. This is an issue, because the accusations range from, "Hey, douche move having your girlfriends pay for all your shit," to, "Oh damn, he's shit-talking his fellow group members," to, "We pressured girls into period sex." It makes it hard to decide how to feel about him. A shit boyfriend who just needs time to grow and mature? A menace who must be kept away from anyone with an X chromosome? Either way, he's been on hiatus since August. He posted on his Insta in February, but that's the closest thing we've got to an update. Whether SuperM will continue as 6, replace Lucas, or keep him, remains to be seen. That doesn't mean SM is done with supergroups. At the very beginning of 2022, a new female supergroup debuted by the name of Got the Beat. It followed a similar format as SuperM, as it consisted of 7 SM idols: soloist Boa, Girls' Generation's Taeyeon and Hyoyeon, Red Velvet's Wendy and Seulgi, and aespa's Karina and Winter. This is just one subunit of a project called Girls on Top, so more female supergroups seem to be coming. Got the Beat did not get the same controversy as SuperM. Oh, don't get me wrong, there was controversy! Mainly due to the whole, "Yeah, girls on top, girl power" image, yet their debut single Step Back is basically, "Get away from my man, you whore!" in song form. So you're telling me these lyrics were written by a 50-year-old man? Well, I never would have guessed! However, the controversy came from the group's content, not concept. There wasn't a multi-month-long tour or an attempt to become the biggest girl group in America. They just performed at an SM concert, dropped the song on official streaming platforms, went on a music show, and that's it. The ladies just spent some time on this side gig before going back to their main projects. I think this is why their debut went down better. Again, minus the lyrics. Fans didn't have to worry about this taking time away from bigger things, and the media wasn't constantly setting the group up for dragging. Got the Beat could have grander plans in the future, but I think it's smart that SM is kind of easing them into the world instead of immediately giving them an over-the-top title. And, despite the limited promo, Step Back did really well. Solid numbers on the K-charts, 3 music show wins, even their 5-month-old performance from the SM concert has caught up in views to Jopping's official music video from 2 years ago. I'm not saying SuperM is inferior or whatever, I'm just showing that the model that Got the Beat uses is a practical one. If SuperM have releases in the future, this may be worth taking inspiration from. It may be too late to try out a new approach. Or, it just might be what helps breathe new life into the group. Or maybe I'm talking out of my ass here. Who the fuck knows? SuperM goddamn fascinates me. They reached heights in the West that few other K-groups have been able to. And yet, that isn't their legacy. Less than 3 years have passed, and they're rarely brought up positively. They're held up as the biggest example of K-pop companies trying and failing to replicate BTS's success. This fate was almost inevitable. They hadn't done vocal warm-ups, yet SM and Capitol thought they could perform an opera. Add speculation over the legitimacy of their #1, as well as infrequent releases, and you have a reputation defined by this. After Stray Kids got their controversial #1, you can feel however you want about it. A lot of the reactions were, "Ah shit, it's SuperM all over again." But I don't think that's the legacy SM wanted. It's too early to tell what SuperM's future will hold. Less than 3 years have passed since their debut. Maybe SuperM will release more music, establishing their own identity as a group and washing away the initial controversy. Got the Beat gives me a little more hope that supergroups can be done well. Fans have apparently gotten SuperM text notifications as recently as early this year, so it doesn't seem like the labels have given up on the group. However, it's definitely gonna be a while before we see what happens next. What with their military enlistment and that. It's gonna be hard to shed the reputation surrounding SuperM. But I don't think it's totally impossible. We just have to wait and see if their companies are willing to make the necessary changes. Who knows? Maybe this video will soon be outdated. We can only hope. Hey, I'm back earlier this time! I wanted to get this posted in June, but alas, I got distracted by binge-watching Ouran High School Host Club and Arcane. Oh, also my mom's brain tumor! Yeah, she's alright, by the way, but that's a bit higher on the priority list. I'm sure you can understand that. My summer break is pretty long, so hopefully I can get another video or 2 out before it ends. 'Cause yeah, once my second year of college starts, don't get used to the active uploads. Speaking of, next video won't be another Anatomy of an Idol. I have my next topics for that series planned, but I have some other stuff I want to do first. I'll give y'all a hint. It's a sequel to one of my most successful videos that a lot of you have been asking for. I can't wait to see you then! Bye!